Hi everyone, my name is Lily and I'm the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite backlist speculative fiction YA books that are queer for you to either add to your TBR for June or add to the rest of your year's TBR for other queer books that you want to read, not only during June. So I have so many books right now, I can't even hold all of them up. Here are just a few of the books that I'm going to be chatting about today, but there are so many more that I'm looking at that I can't hold up. So just feast your eyes on that. I am going to be starting with. Now everything is like all messed up. Okay. I'm going to start with one of my favorites, which is Little Thieves. Little Thieves is a Goose Girl, I think, retelling. It's the first in a trilogy, I think. So there's Little Thieves is the first one, Painted Devils is the second one. I think The Fallow Year is a third one. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But anyway, Little Thieves features a demisexual main character. This book series has made me cry multiple times in my life. I feel a little bit personally victimized by how many emotions I felt while reading this series. But anyway, I definitely recommend this one. It has a fantasy fairy tale vibe to kind of the humor, to the things that might happen in it as well. I also wanted to mention another on the ace spectrum side of main characters. Actually, this one has two main characters, and both of them are queer, and it is A Song of Salvation. This is the third book in kind of the Kindred, The Sound of the Stars, Alicia Dow universe. So I would definitely recommend you start with The Kindred. All of these books feature a spectrum main characters, all of them feature queer relationships, and it's just a little bit easier if you go into the first one because they all are in the same world. There will be mentions of each other, mentions of things that you might have read. It's like not technically 100% necessary, but I would definitely do it just because you might understand a lot more about kind of what might happen and what is going to happen in the world. So definitely wanted to recommend that as well for a sci-fi pick. The next one is Girls of Paper and Fire, which is an OG favorite of mine. I have loved this book so much. This is just one of my many copies of Girls of Paper and Fire. I have the ARCs, I have these, I have the Alima Crate ones. Like, Natasha is definitely an author I could do a series on where I show you all of my different copies of Girls in Paper and Fire, but I really love this one. This one is a YA fantasy. It has a lot of topics about healing, about resistance, about resilience, about trauma, about how we can use this pain or how the pain affects us. Definitely check out the trigger warnings for this one. But this book is such a beautiful story about how we resist both in kind of large ways and also small ways in this YA fantasy. The next one I want to talk about is I don't even know which one I want to talk about next. Let me just start off with the Bow and Spindle. This came out. This is the first of a trilogy, which is also now finished. The Girls of Paper and Fire, as well as a trilogy, which is finished, so you can read them all. But the Bow and Spindle, as well as the first book in a trilogy, and this one definitely starts off with kind of a Sleeping Beauty queer retelling. I feel like it's maybe also gender bent. There's also kind of archaeological treasure hunting vibes as well, with a little bit of Red Riding Hood too that you'll maybe see in the second book. But as you can tell from the cover, just really, really fun. It has a sapphic romance in it as well. So had to recommend this one because I think that I'm so impressed with how this series has kind of taken kind of the foundations of perhaps a Sleeping Beauty retelling and kind of made it into its own immersive world full of characters and lore and everything like that. So I had to recommend this one. Similarly, with sapphic characters, we have We Set the Dark on Fire, which is an old release. All of these are backlist books, so they've all been released already. And I try to pick books that are a little bit older that I haven't seen on a lot of different lists, or maybe that I haven't seen really recently. We Set the Dark on Fire, definitely one of these books. As the tagline says, let rebellion burn. It's a book about rebellion. It's also a book about sort of personal stakes, community stakes. It definitely has kind of it's a YA fantasy, but it definitely has kind of a Handmaid's vibe in the sense that they're in this school, they're kind of being trained for their specific gendered roles. And then what happens in it is that one of the girls is lying about the pedigree of her family, and that's kind of a big secret. So that's kind of the basis of We Set the Dark on Fire. I haven't seen this one talked about as much in a really long time. I know that I've seen a lot of hype about it when it was first released, but I haven't seen a lot in a little bit, so I wanted to mention that one. The next one is Hell Followed With Us. This features a trans main character. I really, really love this one. As you can tell from this shiny award sticker, it's gotten a lot of love, but with well deserved praise. I've loved everything, honestly, that Andrew Joseph White has written. I also really adore The Spirit Bears Its Teeth, which is an historical fiction fantasy. So if that's kind of your vibe in terms of ghosts and spirits, definitely check out that one. I have a copy of that. I don't know where it is. But anyway, Hell Followed With Us is the first debut book of Andrew Joseph White. It's definitely for fans who like a little bit of a body horror, science fiction, apocalyptic, end of the world kind of feel with monsters. So the body horror is definitely the strongest with this one. And then, as I mentioned, The Spirit Bears Its Teeth is more of a historical fiction, fantasy, ghost spirit kind of thing. But both of them are such beautiful portrayals, not only of gender and identity and sexuality, but also about kind of what these characters or what people are pushed to do when they feel like they have no choice, when they feel like maybe they're not the best ones to be the ones who have to like be the hero. What happens when an unlikely person what happens when someone is a hero becomes a hero is kind of a theme I see in both of these different books, and this one is the one that started off Andrew Joseph White's career. The next one I want to mention also features a trans main character, and it is The Witch King. There's a sequel. I don't exactly remember what it is because I haven't listened to it yet, but I listened to the audiobook of The Witch King, and I was like, wait, I actually have a signed copy from one of my favorite independent bookstores, which is Oblong Books. Every time that I'm in the area, I make the extra hour-long drive to go to Oblong Books. The vibe is just so friendly. I really, really love it, and when I was there, not last time, but I think, a couple of times ago, I picked up The Witch King, which was a signed copy, and I really, really loved this YA fantasy about being a leader and what it takes to be a leader, especially within a society that feels so gendered in terms of like who can become a leader. And in this YA fantasy, it goes into kind of why and what people are worried about in terms of like succession and gender roles in society. And I really enjoyed this book so much. And this is making me feel like I should pick up the sequel, or I should put the sequel on hold for me at my local library. The next one features a sapphic romance plotline, and it is Ruin Song. Ruin Song is all about kind of a YA fantasy about harnessing the power of your own voice. There's music magic in Ruin Song, and so a lot of it is literally about harnessing the power of our own voice. In this book, our voice is used as like a powerful weapon against people, and it happens that her voice is being used for bad or for the not good, at least, in the court. And so then she meets this other person who kind of has to figure out and help her realize how she could use her voice for the not bad. The next one is Black Wings Beating, which features a gay main character, one of many. There's also an asexual or on the spectrum main character as well in Black Wings Beating. I have adored this sibling killer bird fantasy book. It is a trilogy, and all of those are out. I had to think about that because I know I have the second book, but I haven't seen the third book in a really long time, so I don't know where that is. But anyway, this is the first book in this one. As I said, killer birds. They're kind of those people who train birds. The whole community is kind of around training birds and the power and the status of not only training birds, but also there's like bird fights too. And so these two siblings have very different positions on their roles in society, but also bird training as well. And so this is kind of like essentially, can they save their society using their magic and using their bird powers? They're not birds, okay? I'm explaining this really badly. They're not birds, they're humans, but there's kind of this magical, fantastical sense about the birds and about what birds can do and what they mean in the society. So I'm just going to stop saying it. Anyway, Black Wings Meeting is the first one of the trilogy, and I also do want to mention Alex London's Proxy, which also features a Gainmate character. I have not read Proxy. I literally own 2 copies of both Proxy and the second book because I love Alex London's books so much, but I haven't read it yet. So honestly, if people were taking notes about kind of the books that I should be adding to my TBR, I'm taking notes in my head. But it would definitely be the sequel to The Witch King, and it would be Proxy. The next one is Crier's War, which is such a shiny cover, it's kind of hard to show you. And also my copy is holographic, if you can tell. Crier's War features a sapphic romantic plotline. It is a YA sci-fi about, as I'm just going to quote this literally, one mortal, one made, one loved, one betrayed. So it's like there's this idea of like people who are made, I wouldn't say necessarily like automatons in that sense. I'll link obviously all my reviews for the books in the description box below because it's been a while since I read it. It's not like quite like automatons, but it's definitely a sci-fi vibe in the sense that a lot of it's kind of like, what are these emotions? Are emotions a sign of weakness? This one is kind of about a rebellion and also about what you would do if you had power or if you don't have power and how you could use that power for good or not good. It's a duology. Crier's War and Iron Heart, I think, is a sequel. I'm just trying to figure out how to show it. Anyway, I love Crier's War so much, so I definitely had to mention that one. The next one is Once and Future, which is this really fun sprayed edge one. Basically everything that Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy has written would definitely fit into Pride Month. They just write, like both of them just write such fabulous books. I really loved The Brilliant Death, so I would recommend that one. That one is kind of like Italian mafia politics meets shape-shifting magic, featuring a non-binary main character in that one. This one, though, Once and Future, is a YA sci-fi retelling of King Arthur. It's a gender bent, so but also like everybody in Once and Future is queer, basically. I literally in my notes it says all the queer. Literally almost everybody, if not everybody, is queer. There's just so many different ones. The world is so queer normative and queer accepting normative as well. Just wanted to mention. And Once in Future is just a really fun sci-fi, like Arthurian retelling that will just transport you to the stars, basically. And the last one I want to talk about is another sci-fi, and it is Crown Chasers. This is a duology, Crown Chasers and Throne Breakers. It features a pansexual main character, our favorite, Alyssa, who's like a chaos, reckless, but not arrogant. I touch upon that in my review. Pilot who just goes through a lot, okay? A lot of betrayal. It, to me, is like spaceship race for leadership slash, I wouldn't say dominion, but like to become the next ruler, meets archaeological kind of puzzles. As I said, it's spaceship races, but also there's deep politics, there's family dynamics, there's just a whole lot to love in Crown Chasers. And I also really loved, and also there's the other part of the duology, Throne Breakers, which is also out already. So those were all of, not even all of the recommendations I have, but all the ones that I wanted to pull out. Also, I was like, okay, I'm only gonna do 5, and then I looked at 5 and was like, okay, I'll do 10, and then I looked at 10 and was like, oh, but then this one and this one. So already this video got a lot longer than I thought it was gonna be with more books. It expanded in the amount of books that I was able to and could share with you in a video that length that I thought would be appropriate. Those are definitely some of the books that you should be adding if you haven't already read them. I just also want to reiterate that June is not the only month that we should be reading queer books. We also shouldn't only be reading one type of queer books. We should be trying to diversify the type of queer identities we are reading all the time, but also in June. So definitely please keep that in mind when you're thinking not only about your TBR for June, but your TBR for the rest of the year, and also how you're picking the books and what kind of books you are picking, because I do think it's important. I definitely, when I was thinking about this list, I was like, I want to feature as many different queer identities as possible on my shelves. As you saw, most of these are physical books. It means that I love them. I am deeply committed to trying to make sure that all the books that I feature are like the true books of my heart. And so I definitely wanted to chat about these ones with you today. I hope you have a really great rest of your reading day, week, Pride Month, and year, and I will see you in the next video. Please let me know down below if you've read one of these books, which one was your favorite? And also, which one would you add to your TBR? Bye!